nobody was expecting me to be on this team. Honestly, we know what the views are of this organization from the outside, but I knew enough people in it to know that we could do something special and that we could potentially change some minds and some views. And
start first with just the special season you guys have had with the Indiana Fever this year. I think it can be summed up by your end of season Instagram post. Let's take a look at this post from you, Sid. And in the in the caption, you said, genuinely enjoyed this team and what we did on the court and in the showers. You're so silly. I knew in the off season that God was placing me where I needed to be to grow and learn some necessary lessons. And that's exactly what happened.
Nobody was expecting me to be on this team. Honestly, we know what the views are of this organization from the outside. But I knew enough people in it to know that we could do something special and that we could potentially change some minds and some views. When Sydney Colson walked away from the Las Vegas Aces, she didn't just leave a team, she left a dynasty, 2 championship rings, her best friend Aja Wilson, guaranteed success, and the entire WNBA establishment couldn't understand why. But what Sydney revealed in her latest interview changes everything we thought we knew about her decision to join Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. This wasn't about rejecting the old guard. It wasn't about chasing money or minutes. It was about answering a calling that nobody saw coming. Many of you have been saying for months that something deeper was happening with the Fever's rebuild. You were on to something, because Sydney's choice to leave Vegas and embrace Indiana's uncertainty reveals the real story behind this season. And it puts the league's narratives about Caitlin Clark in a completely different light. If you believe the story behind the story matters, smash that like button. It tells us we're on the right track as we dig into what really drove one of the WNBA's most beloved veterans to make the most surprising move of her career. Let's filter out the noise and get to what actually happened. The past offseason presented Sydney Colson with a choice that genuinely shocked people around the league. On one side sat the Las Vegas Aces, familiar system, championship pedigree, playing alongside her best friend. It was the safe path, the expected path. Then the phone rang, and it was Indiana. General Manager Amber Cox and head coach Stephanie White weren't just offering a contract. They were presenting an invitation to build something from the ground up. And here's where it gets interesting. The public narrative immediately assumed this was about money or guaranteed playing time. Reading between the lines of what Sydney actually said reveals something completely different. She described this moment as a profound leap of faith, not a basketball calculation, but a spiritual necessity.
So much love for your team. There's a huge free agency on the way. This roster may not ever look the same again. So for you, like, what made this team so special and one to remember in your career?
You know, in the off season, it was obviously like a tough decision for me. I've been with the Aces for so long, and we did some amazing things together as a team. And like I said in the post, I could just feel, God. When you could just feel like you need to get uncomfortable, or like you're being pushed in a direction, and because it makes you uncomfortable, kind of don't want to do it. I think the older I've gotten, the stronger my faith has gotten. I run to the uncomfortable, honestly, because I know on the other side there's gonna be some lesson that I needed, and that was what happened this season.
Let's start first with just the special season you guys have had with the Indiana Fever this year. I think it can be summed up by your end of season Instagram post. Let's take a look at this post. You said in the caption, you said genuinely enjoyed this team and what we did on the court and in the showers. You're so silly. I knew in the off-season that God was placing me where I needed to be to grow and learn some necessary lessons, and that's exactly what happened. That phrase right there, God was placing me where I needed to be. This wasn't about basketball strategy. It was about personal growth, about learning necessary lessons, and connecting the dots reveals why this decision was so significant. Sydney felt guided to a place of discomfort specifically because that's where growth happens. She wasn't running toward comfort. She was running toward the challenge. The Fever's front office had a deliberate strategy. They targeted Sydney early in free agency, not for her stats, but for her personality, her ability to catalyze a young team's development. Amber Cox said they wanted someone who could bring fun and levity to the locker room. They recognized her value as a culture setter, a two-time champion who could instill a winning mentality in a developing roster. But here's what makes this even more compelling. Indiana had a reputation problem. Everyone knew it. The organization was viewed negatively from the outside. Most veterans would have avoided that situation entirely. Not Sydney.
Nobody was expecting me to be on this team. Honestly, we know what the views are of this organization from the outside. But I knew enough people in it to know that we could do something special and that we could potentially change some minds and some views. And
I mean, when you put yourself out there, you also put yourself out there to haters. So how do you handle that aspect of it?
Oh man, I used to just troll them back because like there's nothing that you can say about me that'll hurt my feelings. Like I literally do not know you. And some of the responses are bots. You know, for me to get my feelings hurt by people, I gotta respect you. I gotta value your opinion. A lot of things go into it.
There's clearly so much love for your team. There's a huge free agency on the way. This roster may not ever look the same again. So for you, what made this team so special and one to remember in your career? You know, in the off-season, it was obviously a tough decision for me. I've been with the Aces for so long, and we did some amazing things together as a team. And like I said in the post, I could just, when you could just feel like sometimes you need to get uncomfortable, like you're being pushed in a direction because it makes you uncomfortable. You kind of don't want to do it. I think the older I've gotten, the stronger my faith has gotten. I kind of run to the uncomfortable, honestly. Because I know on the other side there's going to be some lesson that I needed, and that was what happened this season. Run to the uncomfortable. That's the phrase that changes everything. Because while other veterans were supposedly avoiding Indiana and Caitlin Clark, Sydney was actively choosing the hardest path available, not despite the challenges, but because of them. The stronger her faith became, the more she sought out situations that would push her to grow. This completely contradicts the narrative that was being pushed during the season. You remember the storyline. Veterans don't want to play with Caitlin. The Fever are an undesirable destination. Young stars are bad for team chemistry. But Sydney's decision and her reasoning behind it exposes those narratives for what they really were. Assumptions, not reality. The news of Sydney's move sent shockwaves through the league. She wasn't just another free agent switching teams. She was Aja Wilson's best friend, a core part of the Aces' championship culture. Her departure from Las Vegas immediately created tension with the WNBA's established order. Some interpreted her choice as a quiet statement against that veteran core, especially given her incredibly close friendship with Wilson. The expectation was clear. If Sydney was going to Indiana, she should at least keep her distance from Caitlin, make vague comments, play it safe with the media, stay neutral in the ongoing debates about rookie treatment and veteran respect. But Sydney's first actions in Indiana confronted that narrative head-on.
Like you being a stranger, I could care less about you talking about how many points I scored in minutes. I don't care.
No, they'll see you and ask for a picture, But you haven't shied away from it. I loved seeing you and Caitlin Clark's relationship. You guys are always cracking jokes on social media, on your live, and obviously she's a she's a game-changing player for the league. So like, what was it? What has it been like? Getting to know her humor, and seeing firsthand all that's coming her way.
It was cool being on a team with her, getting to see her in another light. Was really cool.
During her introductory press conference, She described the situation as nuts and special. She pointed to the economic impact Caitlin had already brought to Indianapolis, people traveling from out of state and even out of the country to see games. She embraced her new teammate with genuine enthusiasm, and the relationship that developed between them became one of the season's most authentic storylines. And I loved seeing you and Caitlin Clark's relationship. You know, you guys are always cracking jokes on social media, on your lives. And obviously, she's a game-changing player for the league. So, what has it been like getting to know her, her humor, and seeing firsthand all that's coming her way? It was cool being on a team with her. Getting to see her in another light was really cool, getting to see her in another light. That phrase matters because it acknowledges what many of you have been pointing out all season. The public perception of Caitlin Clark doesn't match the reality of who she is as a teammate. Sydney got to see beyond the scrutiny, beyond the pressure, beyond the media narratives. She saw the person, the humor, the humanity. And here's what makes Sydney's perspective so valuable. She's seen it all. She's played with and against the biggest names in the league. She's won championships. She knows what elite talent looks like, and she knows what great teammates look like. Her assessment of Caitlin carries weight precisely because she has that experience to draw from. But the relationship went deeper than just enjoying each other's company. When Caitlin suffered her injury, Sydney's role as a mentor became crucial. This was a test of the culture they were building, a test of whether the veteran leadership would actually show up when things got difficult.
Unfortunately, when she was injured, you're having to adjust your mindset. You're having to get mentally tougher because I think she had like a bad injury before. So now you're having to watch your team from the outside is still, I would be talking to her a lot about, make sure you're still being vocal. You don't want to lose this time with your teammates, and because you're injured or sidelined, you're not still using the opportunity to lead or to grow relationships. Don't let it be a wasted season just because you can't physically contribute.
Over the course of her career, I think we've had many instances where we've seen players like Caitlin, Angel, Paige come in with the sort of notoriety that they had, the sort of money they're making, the attention, everything. It's a lot for a young person to be dealing with, on top of pressure to do well as a basketball player, to lead your teams, all of that. So it was good to be able to see a lighter side of her. Unfortunately, when she was injured, you're having to adjust your mindset. You're having to get mentally tougher because I don't think she'd had a bad injury before. So now you're having to watch your team from the outside. I would be talking to her a lot about, make sure you're still being vocal. You don't want to lose this time with your teammates, and because you're injured or sidelined, you're not still using that opportunity to lead or to grow relationships. Don't let it be a waste of season just because you can't physically contribute. Let's break down what Sydney just revealed. When Caitlin went down with an injury, Sydney didn't let her retreat. She pushed her to stay engaged, to keep building relationships, to continue leading even from the sidelines. This is veteran mentorship at its finest. Not coddling, not distancing, but actively challenging a young star to grow through adversity. And if you're seeing the value in how Sydney approached this situation, drop a comment below with your thoughts on veteran leadership in the WNBA. Because what happened next in Indiana's season proves why this kind of mentorship matters so much. The pressure on the Fever was immense throughout the season. Mounting losses, constant external scrutiny, the ongoing challenge of integrating new players because of injuries. People pointed to Sydney's voice as one in the locker room that everyone listened to. She was one of the main leaders for the team, but her approach to leadership wasn't about being serious or demanding. It was rooted in something much more powerful: humor and authenticity. Sydney actively fostered a locker room environment where players felt comfortable being themselves. She used laughter as a practical tool to manage the stress of a difficult season. And this isn't just feel-good philosophy. Research shows that when players feel supported by their teammates, they're more likely to take risks and push through challenges. Psychological safety directly correlates with better team performance. From the outside, I think everybody can see the different types of adversity that hit our team, and I don't know. We just found a way. We got a lot of personalities on our team, and there's a lot of joking around. So when hard times were hitting, we were just like making jokes, laughing. Because obviously some stuff was just, what can you do? What do you say about some stuff? You just got to get closer together. And I think we did that. I think it showed in our play. And the environment was positive. Found a way. Got closer together. The environment was positive. Those aren't just platitudes. That's the result of deliberate culture building. When adversity hit, instead of fracturing, the team pulled together, and Sydney's leadership was the glue that made that possible. Then came the ultimate test. Sydney herself suffered a torn ACL. This moment could have shattered everything they'd built. Losing one of the primary leaders and culture setters mid-season is devastating for any team. But the Fever's response proved that the culture was real. Instead of falling apart, the team rallied around Sydney with the same spirit of humor and support she had championed from day one. We played with injuries, but even the injured players, we still tried to make it a point to be around for practices, to still be lending our voices, to give whatever advice and wisdom we could. Even though we weren't able to get out there, it seemed like humor was therapy for you guys. Humor was therapy. That's the phrase that captures what Sydney built in Indiana. Not just a basketball team, but a genuine family that could weather any storm together. The resilience born from those connections carried them through the rest of the season and solidified their identity as a group that wouldn't break under pressure. But here's what nobody talks about. Sydney's move to Indiana unlocked something that never would have happened in Las Vegas. Visibility, platform, opportunity. In Vegas, she was a key piece on a roster filled with established stars, but in Indiana, she became a central figure in one of the league's most compelling narratives. You are captivating. You are funny. The way people are consuming the WNBA is changing and evolving, so now you got commercials with TJ Maxx, Allie Deloitte, Kia, DirecTV. You're doing commercials with Diana Taurasi, Brianna Stewart, Paige Buchers. How have you found your lane to crack open and break through the zeitgeist? You are one of the faces of the league. One of the faces of the league. Think about that transformation. By placing herself at the heart of the Fever's rebuild and the Caitlin Clark story, Sydney's profile received a massive boost. Brands looking to connect with the WNBA's rapidly expanding audience saw her as the perfect ambassador. National commercials, brand partnerships with major companies, media appearances, even her own show, Unsupervised with TP. Everywhere I go, I think authenticity is going to always get you where you need to be, even if it's not what you picture. A lot of mine just happens to be self-effacing. A lot of this can be attributed to our showrunner, our director for the citizenship show, Carly. They came up with the idea for TP and I to be the face of the league. Authenticity gets you where you need to be. That's the lesson in all of this. Sydney didn't change who she was. She didn't try to fit into someone else's mold. She stayed true to herself, embraced self-deprecating humor, and found that the right people and opportunities came to her as a result. And here's the deeper truth that Sydney's touching on. Basketball isn't her everything. She's a multifaceted person. Her career hasn't gone the way she thought it would go, and she's okay with that. Because she's still in a blessed position. She's still been in the WNBA for years. And now, at this stage of her career, she's experiencing opportunities that never existed before. We love self-deprecating humor. We're totally okay with what our paths have looked like in the WNBA. I love basketball, but it's not my everything. I'm a multifaceted person. Basketball hasn't gone the way that I thought it would go, and that's okay. I'm still in a very blessed position, and I'm very fortunate. A lot of minutes or not, it's been a real treat to be in the W for this long. I can't say that I expected this. How did joining Indiana unlock these opportunities? By betting on a team on the rise with a massive national profile, Sydney positioned herself at the center of the WNBA's current growth story. The fever, amplified by Caitlin's arrival, created an economic and media impact that benefited every player on the roster. Sydney's authentic presence made her an ideal partner for brands wanting to be part of that momentum. To see that really turn into us being the faces of the league, I hope that it's inspiring to people to just bet on yourself. Make yourself a brand. Be authentic. Stay true to it. And the people that are supposed to find you will find you. Bet on yourself. That's what Sydney did when she left Vegas. She bet that following her faith, embracing discomfort, and joining a rebuilding team would lead somewhere meaningful. And she was absolutely right. So what does all of this mean for the future? Sydney's decision was always about more than basketball. It made a clear statement about the direction of the league and who gets to shape its future. The Indiana Fever, built around Sydney's steady leadership and Caitlin Clark's generational talent, are creating a new blueprint for success. This team represents a sustainable model that blends veteran wisdom with young stars. Sydney herself has spoken about her enjoyment of the relationship aspect of the game, hinting at a potential future in coaching. With a core built for the long term, the foundation is firmly in place. The lessons she learned this season, the culture she helped build, and the relationships she formed are all setting the stage for something special in the years ahead. The 2025 season can't arrive soon enough, because what we witnessed this year was just the beginning. Sydney Colson proved that veterans and young stars can thrive together when the culture is right. She proved that betting on yourself and following your instincts can open doors nobody saw coming. And she proved that the narratives we're fed don't always match reality. If this story resonated with you, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because we're going to keep following Sydney and the Fever as they continue building something special. We've got more deep dives coming on how this team is changing the WNBA landscape, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Do you believe Sydney made the right choice leaving Vegas for Indiana? Let us know in the comments. We'll see you in the next one.